Alright, picking up where we left off, this is linear functions properties. We're going to go to number 5. If you want to get your domain, it's just how far left and right your function goes. Well, it goes left forever and right forever, so it's from negative infinity to infinity, or all real numbers. And the range is what are all the possible y values, how far up and down does the function go? Well, it goes up forever and down forever. So my y values range from negative infinity to positive infinity. Remember, always list it from least to greatest. Negative is definitely less than positive. And then brings us to the next part, which is just the x-axis, which is right there. That's the point negative 2, 0. And the y-intercept is right here. It's the point 0, 6. So I'm going to put that down. On E, then we need to figure out where our interval is positive. Well, right here at the x-axis, at the x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis. So it switches from being positive to negative and vice versa. To the left side is where it's negative, and to the right is where it's positive. So if you want the right side, it starts at negative 2, and goes on forever to the right side. So if you keep traveling right, your function's always going to be up. But my interval for where it's negative is the other way, negative infinity to negative 2, because if you start at negative infinity and you travel right, once you hit 2, negative 2 is where it stops being negative. So that's my interval of positive and negative. The next one is the interval where it's increasing. Well, if you look at your graph and you travel left to right, it's always increasing. And so my interval is going to go from negative infinity to positive infinity. Whereas if you want your interval where it's decreasing, it's not, this function doesn't decrease as you travel from left to right, so this one doesn't exist. So you can put none. And that brings us to our last part, the end behavior. As your x values go left, as you travel towards negative infinity, your function is down, and it keeps going down. So my function is going to approach negative infinity. But as I go the other way, as x approaches positive infinity, my function, so as I go right forever, my function is going to go up forever. My function is going to approach positive infinity. And that gives you 5. Moving on to 6. The domain is how far left and right it goes. And so this one approaches all real values. And the range is how far up and down it goes. So that one ranges from negative infinity to positive infinity, or just all real numbers. C is my x-intercept, which is right there. That's the point 0, 0. That's also the same as the y-intercept, because it crosses the y-axis right there as well. And the next part is where is it positive? Well, right here is where it switches. To the left, it's up above, so that's where it's positive. And to the right, that's where it's down below my x-axis, so that's where it's negative. So our interval for where it's positive ranges from negative infinity until you reach 0. So all the way to the left until you reach 0. And then from 0 onward is where it's down below, and that's where it's negative. Okay, notice these intervals are just the x values. It doesn't tell you what the y values are, so don't write those. Okay, g is the interval where it's increasing. Well, my entire function doesn't increase as I move left to right. It only decreases. And so since it only decreases, my interval for where it's decreasing is from negative infinity to positive infinity, and the interval where it's increasing doesn't exist. And that brings us to this last part, the end behavior. You're always going to start out just like this. As x approaches negative infinity, your function's going to approach some value or number, and then as your x values approach positive infinity, your function is also going to approach some value. Well, if you go left forever, my function is going to go up forever. And so my first one, f of x, is going to approach positive infinity. But if you go right forever, your function is going to be going down forever. And so my function value is going to go down to negative infinity. And that's that one. Moving on to 7, domain and range is how far left and right, and then how far up and down it goes. This one goes left forever, and it goes right forever, and it goes down forever and up forever. So those are my domain and range. The x-intercept's right there, which is the 0.30. That's a 0. And the y-intercept is all the way down here at the point 0, -7. The next part is knowing where it's positive. Well, right at 3 is where it splits it, where the left side is where it's down below, so that's where it's negative. And the right side is where my function is up above my x-axis, so that's where it's positive. So it's positive from 3 onward to the right. And it's negative before it reaches 3, so from -infinity to 3 is where it's negative. And that brings us to the next part. Where is this function increasing? Well, it's increasing everywhere. If you travel left to right, it's always going up. And so from -infinity to +infinity, my function's going up. That's where it's increasing. H is asking where it's decreasing. Well, it's not decreasing anywhere, so you can just put none, because as you travel left to right, it doesn't ever go down. And then my last part is my end behavior. So as x approaches, it's an arrow, -infinity, my function is going to approach, well, what? Well, if you go left forever, my function goes down forever. So it's going to be approaching -infinity. And then my next one, as x approaches +infinity, my function is going to approach what? Well, if you go right forever, my function goes up forever. And so my function is going to approach +infinity. And so there's 7. Let's move on to 8. How far left and right does it go? Well, it goes left forever and right forever. So my domain goes from -infinity to infinity. Those are perfectly drawn infinities. And then how far up and down does it go? That's my range. It goes down to -infinity and it goes up to +infinity. Where is my function crossing my x-axis? It's over here at the point -8, 0. Where is it across the y-axis? Right there. That's the point 0, -4. And where is my function positive? Well, it switches right here at -8. To the left, my function is going to be up above my x-axis. So my interval where it's positive is from -infinity until I reach -8. Remember, these are always from left to right. And then my next one, where is it negative? Well, right here at 8, and to the right, it's going to be negative. And so from -8 and to the right, as in +infinity, it's going to be down below my x-axis. G, where is my function increasing? Well, if you move left to right, your function is never going to go up. And so this one doesn't have an interval where it's increasing. But the interval where it's decreasing is just -infinity to infinity. And then brings us to the next part. As x approaches -infinity, as in when you travel left forever, what does your function do? Well, your function keeps going up and up and up, so it goes to +infinity. And as you travel right forever, so as x approaches +infinity, your function is going to keep going down and down and down and down and down, so f of x is going to approach -infinity. And that brings us to 9. How far left and right does it go? Well, this one goes left forever and right forever, and so that includes all real numbers. My range, how far up and down does it go? Again, including all the numbers, all real numbers, so I'm going to use my fancy R. And C is my x-intercept, which is right there, and my y-intercept is D, which is right there. These are the same point. It's the point 0, 0. And let's see. Where is my function going to be positive? Well, right here, it crosses my x-axis. And to the left, it's down below my x-axis, so that's where it's negative. And to the right, it's above my x-axis, so that's where it's positive. So from 0 onward to the right, it's positive. And from -infinity until you reach 0, is where it's down below my x-axis. So there's my interval where it's negative. Where is my function increasing? Well, if you move left to right, it's always increasing, no matter where you're at. So my interval increases from negative infinity to infinity, and it doesn't ever go down, so it doesn't have an interval where it's decreasing. And this last part is your end behavior. So as you travel left forever, so as x approaches negative infinity, what's your function do? Well, if you go left forever, your function goes down forever. And so my f of x is going to approach negative infinity. As x approaches positive infinity as you travel right forever, my function is going to go up forever. And so my function value is going to be approaching positive infinity. And that's what it is all the way up through 9.